How you doing? Welcome to the Cascade Room for our first town council meeting in the new building. I'd like to thank all of you. Just a quick heads up for some of you who have never been here. The restrooms are directly out that door right there. And just give anyone a heads up because this is the first time for everyone. A couple quick things we're going to talk about real quick before we get into the agenda. If anyone's going to address the meeting tonight, because it is being video recorded, we'd like them to please approach and stand at the podium. And that will just help with everyone being able to hear and also being able to be seen by our video recorder. And that's, we'll keep that practice until otherwise, if the council decides we don't want to do that anymore. So with no further ado, we'll continue on with the agenda. The first thing on the item is consider approving the minutes held from August 24th.
I'd make a motion to approve those minutes. Second motion.
Made second, all in favor? Thank you. Next one is discuss and review junkyard licenses.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have our code enforcement officer, Bob Ellis, to address.
And Bob will be the first one at the podium.
Yes,
Talking to the microphone.
I feel like I'm the mayor again here. Only we had 300-400 people out there fighting with each other. Okay, the junkyard ordinance, automobile graveyard, made my visits to each of them on September 14th, which was a Wednesday, 2 weeks before today. And making the rounds, I went to Jerome Boulette, and I got some written notes. You all have a copy, I'm sure. He's in compliance, doing more with auto repair than junk, Kennebec scrap iron. Says he's not very busy, a lot of junk stock to move around. He's in compliance. AIM Recycling, they're still quite busy. Shipping to Canada, in compliance also, doing very well. Donald Davis, his yard's always in compliance. He's now, I counted them out, there are around 60 junk vehicles in his back. Besides the cost again of obtaining vehicles to process is getting so expensive with the cost of gasoline so high, it's hardly worth it. Jeff Higgins, he's doing everything but junk these days. He's so busy with his contracting business, but he intends to continue to be licensed, at least for now. Raymond Brickett, his yard's in compliance. Wasn't long ago I mentioned to him that he had a bunch of vehicles out front that weren't registered and weren't inspected and so forth and so on. I've talked to him a couple times since, and very recently I went over there, and the only drivable vehicle that he has is that big truck that he uses on site is more than anything, but everything else, there's only 2 vehicles left. They're up to speed, and all the rest have disappeared out back. So he's in compliance as well. Yeah, out in front, he still has the business called the Red Brook Trading Post, which he sells stuff through. And that's no violation of the ordinance, which is something that he has going. So I recommend that all 6 of the above yards receive approval and be relicensed for the coming year, starting October 1, 2016, and run through September 30, 2017.
I'd make a motion that we relicense all these junkyards. Second motion.
Second. Motion made second, all in favor? Either one of you have anything you want to say?
No.
You're here, I didn't know if you had anything to say. Well, welcome though. And
I thought you might say thank you. You're welcome.
And while you're standing right up there, Bob, why don't we do this? Why don't we just
Yep.
skip over 3, 4, and go right to number 6 to
Good.
discuss Mr. Oakland's progress.
Okay. I've talked to him maybe half a dozen times since the last meeting when he was at the meeting at the firehouse. And I've been leaning on him a little bit, quite a lot. And he has taken all of the junk from the front that was piled up and garbage and all the rest of it. If any of you have looked at it, it's vast improvement over what it was. And I keep talking to him. He's got chickens running all over the front yard and a few other birds. I don't know exactly what they all are. Could be a couple of geese maybe, I don't know. But they're out there and he feeds them, and we've had problems in the past in other yards where they're contiguous to the neighbor with no fence, and they're over in the neighbors doing their stuff and all that. His are right there in the front yard, there's nobody that close to him. They don't go out in the street, I don't know why, because they're getting fed on site, I guess, so. Overall, he's not out of compliance. A couple of people have called and said, it still looks like hell. I said, well, you know, he's sort of an old farmer too, and he has his rights to a degree. If they started getting onto neighbors' properties, that would be something else that we would have to get the new health officer, who is the chief of the fire department, and his assistant, and get over there and enforce further. But right now, there's no real requirement to have to do that unless somebody here disagrees with that. So where's that?
So you're pleased, generally speaking?
Yeah, a lot of stuff has been removed and put out back and out of sight, out of mind to a degree. And it seems to be working much better.
I mean, the property's still a rough looking piece of property.
Yeah.
And, you know, I go by it and it's certainly got a lot of room for improvement, but is there enough to go any further with it? The way our ordinance is currently written, I would say no.
Good. Thank you.
Indeed, sir.
Don? Sorry, Don, I've seen him.
That's right. In regards to the things that he's moved, and we had mentioned this at the last session, we, again, sitting on the fence in regards to should he have a junkyard permit and follow those guidelines, or does he not have things in the back that would require him to have a junkyard permit?
I don't think that he has, and he wouldn't qualify anyway, because you have to have certain setbacks and certain amount of area. I'm sure he's got area, but you just can't become a junkyard because you look like one. You have to clean it up.
How about the automobiles? That's an issue they had. Does he have unregistered cars there? Are they all gone?
They're gone. Yeah, he's done all that.
So I guess the question is he in violation of any junkyard ordinances, even though he's not a junkyard?
No, he would be if he had all the vehicles still on site, but I went out and I looked one day when he wasn't there, and he showed up while I was there, but I said, where'd you put all the vehicles? He said, I got rid of them. So, okay.
Good.
And I shall continue to hound him, and when the snow comes, you won't be able to see it till next spring, and then where the devil did all this stuff come from in the winter. So, we'll keep an eye on it.
I think what's gonna happen when the leaves come off the trees, that's when it's gonna expose how bad the property is.
He did take the front, but you guys haven't looked at it. He's got a fence about yay high that covers the entrances to two of the little huts he's got out there. One he had to feed all the pigs with, and had 10 little piglets born recently, and they were all trotting around behind the chicken fence there. And the last 2 days, I've gone, I can't find a pig in there. And I know he's got the big ones somewhere around there. He says they're not worth anything to anybody, and he's gonna keep them, I guess, I don't know. But they're out of sight, out of mind, they're hidden in there and all that stuff, so
Good.
far.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and like I said, I'll stay on top of it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Indeed, sir.
Next one is item number 3, the vote accepting $2,000 donation to fund the audiovisual equipment in Cascade Room where we're sitting now.
We had a group of our committee members get together and generate some cash so that we could buy what you see here. And they're committing $2,000, and we need council approval to accept that gift.
I'd make a motion to accept the donation and write him a note to thank him for it.
I'll second.
Mark seconds, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to item number 4.
We need to, once again, choose the voting delegate.
Night, Jay. Night, Tucker. Thank you for coming.
Good night.
See you.
Choose the voting delegate to the MMA convention. And I believe last year, Dana, you did that.
Yes.
Didn't you? Are you interested in doing that again this year? Perfect.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? That was easy.
If I could get you now, I'm gonna pass this down just like this. And get you just to sign that for me, and we'll fill in Dana's name.
While we're signing, going ahead on item number 5, second reading of general assistance ordinance.
We made no changes on the first reading, so it was the same information that I posted for the second reading. As I said before, it's only, it's updating items that I deal with every time when I do general assistance. It's food and household, personal, rent, electric, those types of things. And we're just going along with what Maine Municipal and Department of Human Services recommends. So we do that every year. But it has to be approved by the council, so when I start using these guidelines.
I'd make a motion to accept this as the second reading of the general assistance ordinance.
Second, motion made, second, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the manager's report.
We have the August library report from Sarah. I've gone through it, there's nothing remarkable. The only thing I'd like to add, I don't know if you've been up to see what the back of the library looks like, but it's absolutely beautiful. The cement that was on the ground was all torn up, and it had moved, we took it all out of there with a jackhammer, and we ended up putting stone in, and it just complements the building. So if you haven't been up to the back of the library, please go up and take a look at it, I think you're gonna be very impressed. The other item that I have on the agenda is, Dawn actually came in and approached me back a few weeks ago when Winslow had passed the fireworks ban due to the dry weather. And we wanted to put it onto our agenda to open up discussion over it. Since I've met with Dawn, I actually met with Chief Coughlin. And we were talking about this and discussing the needs for it. And he really personally doesn't feel as though we have a need because the fire danger is down to class 1. It's been better than what it has been. And his other comment that he had was on the 4th of July celebration, we're allowing fireworks, and that was class 3 day. So I'd like to open that up for discussion and find out if you feel there's a need for that, or if you want to let it rest for now.
Don, you brought it up, go ahead.
The major reason that I brought it up was, it was in the papers, everybody else reads it, and I just thought it was appropriate that should we do nothing, that's fine, but we should at least bring it up so that we can discuss it, bring out any points, and decide that we're fine, just as, the recommendation is tonight, so that people don't perceive that we're not addressing potential problems. And I think in the future, the same thing. It's good that it came out, because I think all of us will be more mindful as we get dry weather or things that maybe we should at times consider a temporary ban if we think that's appropriate. But right now, I would definitely follow Mr. Coughlin's recommendation where, the potential level according to the fire warden services.
Did Dave say how much he might change this if it doesn't rain, or if he expects it to dry out again as soon as the leaves start falling?
We didn't really get into that, we discussed it, and he said, well, it's been a class 1 day here for the last few days. We're expecting more rainy weather in the future, in the forecast. And if it does get drier, we can certainly sit down and revisit this. The other thing that I just want to make note is we don't really have a lot of fireworks going off around town. I don't know how it is out in your neighborhood, but there's been nothing, to my knowledge, of firework complaints in the town. Winslow's a different story. They've got their fireworks store right there in town, and it's pretty easy to go out and buy it. I think people have to make an effort. But I know that birthday celebrations, sometimes if they have an outdoor celebration, they won't celebrate with fireworks, but we get into cold weather too.
To that point, which again, something we may want to periodically at least review. Jan, do you have a sense of how many people have actually applied for permission to use fireworks other than the 4th of July week? It hasn't been brought to my attention, and so it doesn't seem like we've had a lot.
I don't even know if there's been 6.
Yeah. I did, you and I discussed that at one point, I did talk with Bob, he had 2 all summer, and the police department had, a few, but wasn't as many as what I think people are, I think what's happening is people are going out buying the fireworks and just doing it.
The issue that we had, I think, and it hasn't been brought up this last year, this was several years in the past, the concern that there were the camp owners who rent properties were getting them every week, so that the people who came during that week could, and some of the residents were a little concerned about the fact that, so they get a permit every week, so things haven't changed. But I haven't heard that in the last year, at least maybe 2.
I think the newness is kind of carrying on that.
It must be expensive.
They are very expensive.
Maybe you should, you can give us a report.
Well, you know how to buy those.
Would it be any advantage to you and the fire chief to have it in our ordinance that you could declare it a ban anytime you saw fit with the fire
We can
danger
talk
until we
about
got to a council meeting, because it couldn't be 2 to 3 weeks in between sometime.
At council discretion to be able to make a ban, then we'll have to come up with some way of notifying the public that we have a ban in place. I know this is a little off subject, but it's kind of on the same line. When we get ready to buy an electronic board for the town, that we can adjust it from, we can put on it fireworks ban in place for a period of time, just to let the public know. There's a lot of advantages to that, so it helps me solidify what I want to do out there.
So now that you have veered off the subject to an electronic reader board, is there a plan? How much thought has been given to it? We've got the $2,000 donation for this. Have we looked in? And the reason I bring it up is because as I drove by, I saw the Lions Club sign that they've had out there, and I said, wow, wouldn't a nice electronic board go really well there? And I'm sure the Lions Club would be appreciative, and they might even want to contribute to it.
And I think that the ideal location for that would be right on this corner. And so I'm just gonna hold off just a little bit longer before we end up pouring cement and doing all that kind of stuff to get the right location.
No, I guess I was just curious, is that something that we're seriously
We
going to be
absolutely,
working on?
I am serious, and I think about that quite often. Jan and I have discussed it, and we just want the right location for it, because once you lock that down, just like the one up on the hill here, it's a pretty permanent fixture. And so we wanna make sure we got a good spot for it.
Would there be any opposition from DOT to having it right in that busy intersection? Or-
I don't know, I haven't looked into that. It's a
Yeah,
good point, but
might want to consider, because they do have somebody that, what did the guy call himself that runs around checking how fast your signs change the message?
Second. Right, we had
The
to
state
have
has
it.
somebody
We
that
had
runs
have
around to
that.
check that.
that's, something I never really thought about, Dan, and that's worth a question. Yeah,
That is a busy intersection out there.
it is a busy
But
intersection.
I agree that we need a sign though, so,
Yeah, and that would be distracting to drivers.
I don't know.
I think it's a really good idea and a good spot for it, and,
The intersection,
right here, on this corner,
or in the middle of the road, or on the side of the road?
on the side of this, out of the intersection, on our property,
Right.
but the proximity to the intersection could be distracting. So that's worth investigating just a little bit. Which I never would thought
I
of
don't know if they have any rules. I know they have a time rule, because
We had to do that with Fabian
Yeah.
Oil
Right,
for them to get
they
there.
had to review how fast their sign was changing.
Now,
I don't remember the
did
details,
did we say that we would approve, was that the way the wording was on that one?
I'm
We
thinking
had to
that was
approve
what we-
something other than
Yes.
prescribed, and we did.
We did.
I guess that's the only way they could have it change that fast, is if the municipality approved it or something, didn't they
It
tell
was,
us?
it was somewhere, I have to go back and look it up, I'm
Yeah.
not sure, I have no idea.
Okay. Are we all set with that one? The next section I'd like to talk about is our future arrangements for Parks and Recreation Code and assessing departments. And I know that when we put this package together, part of the plan was to allow us to clean up our ADA compliance issues at the town office. I've got all kinds of thoughts going through my head on that. I certainly think things have to be done, but I don't think that I want to get involved in that stuff to this point, because AJ is so backlogged with just cleaning up projects up here. Dawn and I had discussed the possibility of moving Eric out of the building eventually and move him up in Memorial Hall. I talked with Scott Stevens about that to find out where he was on it. He is in fact using the entire building. I mean, he's using upstairs and downstairs, and it was a real problem for him when RSU 18 was operating out of the downstairs, so he doesn't see how it would work for him if we took the bottom floor. So if we decided that that's a direction that we wanted to go with Parks and Recreation, then I think we'd have to make some hard decisions. The nice thing about the current arrangements is the cost of the building is pretty much absorbed and the taxpayers aren't putting that bill because of our tenant who's up there. So, given that, we have a couple of things we can look at. Through this winter, I would like to take Eric and move him out of his current location and move him into the old council chambers to the winter. He's basically in a hallway. It's an impossible situation. How this man has functioned out of there for 27 years or whatever is mind-boggling. I mean, he's got all kinds of stuff. That will give AJ and his crew a chance to get through the winter and get their stuff caught up. Next summer, I'd like to assess that. Eric, as Parks and Recreation, he really doesn't, he's not fond about moving up on the top floor because he has so much that he has to carry to his space. I mean, he has bags of basketballs sometimes, he has boxes and stuff, and he just feels as though it's gonna be a real hardship to carry all that stuff upstairs. So I'd like to make an assessment on that, sit down and talk with him a little bit longer. I think that we can make our code enforcement and our assessing department work down in the basement. Dawn and I actually spent some time walking around there. One of my thoughts has been going into Doug's office and taking that cement wall out that's between Doug's office and the old council chambers, leaving the vault room where it is, and expanding the council chambers to involve Doug's office as well. I think that's going to give our assessing department enough room to operate. Then Bob Ellis, we can move him in to clean up that office space that Eric's working out of. And we can move him into that space and keep them all down on the same floor. I think that if we actually turn that into an office, I really think that it's a winner by having our code and assessing departments operating on the bottom floor. That way their customers can park out back. It just makes it a cleaner operation. It's safer. It brings us closer to ADA compliance. That leaves us Doug. Doug can move upstairs into Bob Ellis's office. He actually can have those two offices side by side, which I think is a good idea, and he's thrilled about that idea. He'd like to move upstairs. That gives us the assessing department to either have our Parks and Recreation operating on it, or to split it up so that we have them and we can actually have a meeting space within the town office too. So, I'm open for ideas, suggestions. This is a chance to talk about that, or think about it, and we can set some time aside at our next meeting to talk about it.
Couple of thoughts, and I hadn't thought of this until just now. Is this something that the facilities committee that is ongoing should be involved with as a temporary, or they definitely should be knowledgeable of it because they're looking at what is the next step for the town, and obviously the town office and the fire station are two of the things that have been thrown into the mix. We haven't started meeting yet, but maybe this discussion or a later discussion with them would be appropriate so they have input or at least knowledge of. Secondly, unless you have already done so, I think we should be contacting the RSU 18 because they're having their major facilities committee study, and I think as I remember, it started last September officially, and it was supposed to be a one-year study. And we were sort of waiting on the outcome of that because several possibilities were thrown out. Tapley School and Atwood School were both potential buildings that may in fact come back to the town at some point. And we were sort of waiting and saying, well, you know, we need to know about that to let our facilities committee say, well, is that appropriate? We haven't really studied those. It's not appropriate to study them until after RSU gets done. And I guess I'm hoping that they have come up with a recommendation, or will do so soonly, because it's been about a year and a half. And we do have constituents who are asking, well, why are you doing anything when you might have a school building that's gonna revert back to the town? So
I have some reservations with that school building up there.
I'm not saying that we accept it, but we were sort of waiting until they came to a conclusion.
Mhm.
They may not even have those two buildings available under their conclusion. If that's the case, there's no reason to study it.
Mhm.
But, you know, I know people in town are thinking that we should be looking at those.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, and I certainly don't have a problem with bringing this up at our committee so that we can get them involved in it. But this is part of the conversation, where we can take this with the town office. I do like this campus feel that we've developed here. I mean, with the new parking lots and the layout, this is a really convenient location for all of our facilities now. I mean, we've made a huge improvement on site. So I like the fact that we can keep our town office here and not have to move it out of this complex. And, you know, Parks and Recreation, certainly, that can work off-site.
And I guess that's part of my thinking, is that when this is all said and done, Parks and Recreation, the possibilities that they could have would require some sort of a building. A church would have been ideal, Memorial Hall might be a venue, or the Atwood School. And again, I'm not saying any one of them is necessarily the one, but we need to see what's available so that, you know, we can include that in the mix.
I like the Memorial idea, Memorial Hall idea, only because this is such a unique building, and it's town property, and it holds a lot of value in town. You know, and to bring that back into the municipal mix is appealing to me, only because of what it is. You know, and to have that operate in the Parks and Recreation facility, to me, it wouldn't take a lot of modifications to make that happen for us. And, but it's gonna bring out the cost of the town in order to do that. So I guess, you know, when we get to that stage and we actually have meaningful conversations about that, we have to look at pluses versus minuses on that, and what Eric brings to the table as far as his package. I mean, he's not only, you know, participating with our young people, but a lot of the older people, he has programs for them that hold a lot of value. And there's, you know, how he's done this, it's a Band-Aid. You know, he goes over here and has his meetings for his older groups, and he's just grabbing places wherever he can. So,
You know, we have another building we're gonna put back up next year, was the garage. We're gonna put that back up next year, and over to the town sections complex, there's a building right there, and he carries a lot of equipment around. Maybe the building that's not the garage part, but the other part, where he has the saws and stuff like that. Maybe if we're thinking about it, we're gonna put the other building up, pour a slab, put the other garage up, maybe move some of that out and make that just the Parks and Rec building. He could drive his truck in there, unload his equipment in there, have some lockers in there, you know, have his own
you're
desk.
talking about adding on to what we're gonna do?
We have the building, the garage that was here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
that's
gonna
what
put
I'm
it
over
over
there.
there. And it's gonna be put up over there. So you got the old garage and the new one we just built a few years back. It's all heated, all insulated. There's an office up top. But maybe if, you know, if we decided we could take and move some of that equipment into the other garage that was here, that we're going to build next year. Geez, you know, there's your office right there. He could back in there if it's raining, he could unload his equipment. He has a place where he could get everything into, because he does have a lot of equipment. You know.
It's AJ's world.
But he's got another garage going out back,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
I guess what you're asking is two things. One is, do we want to have a temporary solution, which is going to involve this winter and doing those things? I guess I'm in favor of coming up with something very quickly, because we have the space now. The police department's out of it, they're here, that's not being used, and if there's something we can do temporarily, and then between the council and the building committee, you know, a long-range plan that we could start talking about immediately.
That's exactly what I'm asking for, Don, thank you. And it's not gonna be an immediate, because Jan wants to utilize that space for voting temporary. It'll be taking place shortly after November 8th. But, yes, that's what I'm asking for, to move him temporarily into that space And because there's gonna be an